Hi, hey, hello, how are you? And welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing my March wrap-up. This is every single book that I read in the month of March. I ended up reading 7 books this month, and I feel like, though that is not my best, I'm not going to be too hard on myself because I did feel a little slumped out at a couple points this month. The last couple months I've really been trying to focus on reading through every single book that's in my TBR video that I make for each month. In March I was able to read 5 of the 6 books that I picked, plus a couple extra, so I don't feel too bad about that. There was only one that I didn't get to, but that's okay. I'll get to it eventually, hopefully this year. Alright, so let's just start. The first book that I read in March was Bride by Ali Hazelwood. This was a new release in February. It came out in the very beginning of February. I am normally up on these types of things, but I completely forgot that it was coming out so early in February. For some reason, I had in my mind that it was gonna come out later on in the month, so I didn't actually get to finish reading it until March began. So, my thoughts on Bride. I'm just gonna say from the top, this really disappointed me. And I know that a lot of people really liked this, a lot of people were really into it. I was not one of them. This book was not for me personally. I just didn't jive with it. I was so excited when I heard about this book coming out. I was so ready for Ali Hazelwood to give us that like Twilight-esque type of romance. But that is not what this was. I knew that there were vampires and werewolves. However, I did not really read like a full summary until right before I read it because I didn't want anything spoiled. I was like, I'll just wait until I read it. Here's the thing. So the main character is a vampire and the love interest is a werewolf. It is a marriage of convenience trope, which I don't know that I had ever read before, and based off of this, maybe it's not my thing. But that could also just be that I didn't really like this book. I don't know. But anyway, I was expecting vampires. I love vampires. I've talked about that so many times on my channel before. I'm a vampire girly. However, this was like a vampire in a werewolf's world. And it was just so much werewolf. And I was not prepared for that. I was not really into that. I don't really care about werewolves, to be honest, and there was far too much werewolf for my liking personally, but that's on me. I should have known better. I should have considered Miss Ali Hazelwood's strong ties to the Omegaverse. I did not. The Omegaverse is something that I've never delved into, probably definitely won't at this point, because I'm absolutely scarred from the wolf spicy scenes in this book. No thank you. I love some good spice, but this werewolf dog man spice, no, that was not for me. It was not it. I was like slightly intrigued whilst reading this book because there is a mystery subplot going on. The main character's best friend has gone missing and she's like, I feel like it's got something to do with the werewolves. And so I did want to find out what was gonna happen. I was interested in that. So for that reason, I gave it 2 stars. But other than that, honestly, I'd give it a 1. Like, I did not feel chemistry between the 2 main characters. They're just kind of like indifferent to each other for a long time. And then bam, it feels like insta-love and there's just like spice and they're moving at 100 miles an hour, and that was just, it's not that I'm looking for realism in a vampire werewolf romance book, but that didn't feel realistic to me. I didn't like it. I didn't really care about the characters. 2 stars. No thank you. If she keeps writing books like this, I'm not gonna read those. I will continue to read her STEM romances. I still love the books by Ali Hazelwood that I've already read, but I now know that I have limits. After Bride, I read Swift and Saddled by Lila Sage. This was a new release. It came out the first week of March, and I was so stoked to read it. Oh my god. I read Done and Dusted in February and I was absolutely hooked. I could not wait. I was so excited that the next one is coming out the next month. I'm honestly really glad that I didn't read Done and Dusted right when it came out and everybody was super excited about it. I'm glad that I waited so I could kind of read them like almost back to back. That was fun because now I've got to wait till November for the third one. So that's awesome. I love that. I also realized looking back that in my February wrap-up video, I was so excited to talk about how much I loved Done and Dusted that I didn't actually describe the plot. So in that one, we've got the main character, Clementine. She has two brothers. So the second book is about her brother Weston and his love story. He falls in love with this interior designer, Ada, and she's got like a little bit of a past, like she's divorced, and so we kind of delve into that, and that was really interesting. And also Weston is just like the sweetest creature to ever exist. He's so amazing, and like his personality is so different than the love interest in the first one, Brooks, and I love both of them like almost equally. I probably like Brooks a little bit more, but Weston is amazing. He's amazing with Ada. They're so cute together, and of course you've got lots of cameos from all the other characters in the first book. It really feels like a strong series. Like these are not standalone interconnected books. Like this is definitely a series, and I would for sure recommend that you read them in order if you're going to read them, but I highly recommend it. Honestly, I love the Rebel Blue Ranch series. I am so stoked for the third one. The third one is going to be about the oldest brother and Clementine's best friend. It's gonna be like enemies to lovers. I can't wait. So in this one, it's Wes's dream to like fix up this really old house that's on the ranch and kind of make it into like a B&B, but he needs help. He doesn't know what to do. So he hires this interior designer and they fall in love. It's adorable. Also in Lila Sage's first book, she kind of does a little highlight on Clementine's ADHD, and in this one we talk about Weston's depression, and I just really like that. Like it's a fun, cute little cowboy romance, but like we also talk about mental health. Like that's amazing. I've never experienced that before and I loved it. I felt like it was handled in such a gentle, appropriate way, and I didn't like see any major problems with it like I have with some books that talk about mental health and serious subjects and just kind of miss the mark. Colleen Hoover. But yeah, I love Lila Sage. I would read anything she writes at this point. Amazing. Very spicy, just like the first one. But yeah, 5 stars. Also, it takes place in the spring and summer. If you want to read it when it happens, spring and summer. After Swift and Saddled, I read This Spells Love by Kate Robb. This is a romance with some magical realism that came out last year. In my March TBR video, I picked this book because I had put it on my Christmas wish list and I got it with the hopes that it was another witch romance that I could read and review and add to my lineup of witch romances to eventually make a video where I tell you which ones to read and which ones to stay away from. I was so wrong. I was so wrong, and I feel bad about that because I was straight up just like, oh yeah, it's a witch romance. It's not. There are no witches. There is a spell and it works, so there is magic, and the spell does create like an alternate timeline, but in a sense it almost feels like it's an alternate reality book, like not a magic book, I guess. But yeah, there are no witches. I fully just made that up. I just assumed that because there was a spell, there's witches, there's not. So this was a fun read, but I'm not gonna lie, that did kind of shade the way that I felt about it, because once I realized it was not a witch romance, I was kind of like, oh, why am I reading this? Because I don't know that I would have picked this up if I would have known that beforehand. But it was cute. This is about our female main character, Gemma. She's just gone through a rough breakup after being together with this guy for like a couple years. And so she talks to her sister and her weird aunt about it. And they all hang out one night. They get super drunk. Her best guy friend is there too. And her aunt owns a bookstore, and she's like, oh, I got this book in a donation pile the other day, and it's definitely a spell book. And she's like, let's just try it. And it's like a spell to remove her boyfriend from her past, because she's like, it just hurts so bad that I don't want to have to think about him anymore. And it works. And she wakes up the next morning and she had never gotten together with her boyfriend. The catch is she met her best guy friend, Dax, on that same night that she met her boyfriend. So because that never happened, she never became best friends with Dax either. So she's like trying to figure out what to do, what all this means, how to get back to her regular life. Does she want to get back to her regular life? And it was really cute. I gave this one 4 stars. It was a little bit corny, a little bit cringe. Definitely didn't give me that 5-star feel. But I feel like it's fun, and I would maybe recommend it if it sounds like you're into this. It takes place in the summer, so if you want to read it when it happens, I would suggest to read it in the summer, not the fall, because it's not a witch book. After This Spells Love, I read Snowblind by Ragnar Jónasson. This is an Icelandic book that has been translated into English. My father-in-law read it and said it was awesome and gave it to me to read. And I agree, it was awesome. I really liked it. So this author, before he even became an author, he spent years translating every Agatha Christie book into Icelandic. So he's got it. He's read them all. That's a dream of mine one day, honestly. But if you've done a little bit of research on Agatha Christie, you know that one of her most famous series is her Poirot series. And she has famously stated that she wished that she would have started that series when he was younger. Because when it starts, he's already like in his 50s or 60s at that point, and he's just like trying to retire over and over again throughout the books, but he keeps solving these mysteries. So what our friend Ragnar here wanted to do was create a character that was similar to Poirot in that he investigates crimes and whatnot, but start him off earlier in life, like Agatha Christie wished she could have done with her most famous character. I really loved that concept. I think it went really well. I think he did an amazing job. This first book actually came out in 2010. It follows our main character, Arithor. He has recently just graduated from the police college and has been offered a job in a small town in northern Iceland called Siglufjörður. And he goes up there against his girlfriend's wishes, kind of just leaves her behind. That sucks, but that plays into it later on. Moves to this small town, is kind of bored, honestly, because nothing really happens there. There's not much crime until there is crime and people start dying, and he has to investigate, and it's really interesting. I feel like there's a lot more backstory. There's a lot about his personal life. There's a lot about all the other people in the town's personal lives, which I really appreciate, because sometimes with Poirot books in Agatha Christie's series, I've noticed that it's like, it feels like you could just read any one of them at any time. You don't need any background information. And I like the background information. I want to know about our main character. I want to know why he is the way that he is. And I really enjoyed that. I was interested the whole time. I didn't guess the ending, and I realized that this is actually a series. There are 6 books in the series so far. I don't know if it's done. And so after reading this one, I was super excited to read the rest of them. So I gave this one 4 stars. And as you might have guessed, it takes place in the winter. So if you want to read it when it happens, read it in the winter. After Snowblind, I read Before We Were Innocent by Ella Berman. This has been on my TBR for almost a year exactly. I didn't realize it, but I guess when I bought it, it had just come out. So it came out basically a year ago. This is a literary fiction. It does have some mystery elements, but I don't think that it could be accurately classified as a mystery book. So yeah, it's a literary fiction. This book is about 3 best friends who go on a trip to Greece in the summer between them graduating high school and starting college. It's kind of a last hurrah before like they all go their separate ways. They're all gonna go to different colleges. Unfortunately, only 2 of the 3 girls end up coming home. So you learn early on that there was an accident. You're not sure what happened. This book does have dual timelines. Part of it takes place in the past when this all occurred in 2008, and then it flashes forward to 10 years later in 2018. So the pacing of this book felt really weird to me. You're wondering what happened with that girl in 2008, and then you find out about like halfway through, which was kind of strange to me. I felt like maybe it would have been better if you would have found out earlier so it doesn't have this mysterious element, it's just like a fact. Or if they would have waited until the end to tell you. I feel like that could have also made sense to me. You learn early on that there are suspicions around what happened to their friend in Greece, and the two remaining girls essentially go through a huge trial by media. Every part of their lives are scrutinized and torn apart, and it really changes the way that their lives go. For the next 10 years, one of them kind of like holes up like a hermit, and then the other one kind of capitalizes on this story and ends up becoming a big motivational speaker slash influencer type person. So when you find out what happened, like halfway through the book, I feel like it loses a lot of its momentum, in my opinion. It was really frustrating to me, and it kind of took away my drive to finish the book. I mean, obviously I did finish it, but I really felt like I was dragging. I took way longer to read this because I was just like, I don't really care. There's also another little mystery that's happening in the like present day timeline that kind of gets wrapped up in the end, but I really did not like how it ended. I felt like it was a little bit phoned in, maybe. It just wasn't, I don't think it was a strong ending. I don't think it was a strong book in general. To be honest, I wouldn't really recommend this. I gave it 3 stars. The setting in Greece was pretty. All of that takes place like in the summertime, and it's really idyllic when they're describing their trip before it all goes south. But yeah, the ending was unsatisfying to me. I was frustrated throughout the book and unmotivated to finish it. Wouldn't really recommend it. Also, it did alter my mood while I was reading it. I wouldn't say that the book is like inherently melancholy or anything, but it made me sad. Like, it kind of ruined my day a couple days in a row. I don't know, maybe that's just me, but yeah, I don't think you need to read this. I'm gonna donate it, honestly. After Before We Were Innocent, I read Nightblind by Ragnar Jonasson. This is the second book in the Dark Iceland series. But I actually today started the third one, and that one actually takes place in between the first and second books. So I don't know why. I'm gonna do some research on that so I can hopefully explain that better later. But I would probably suggest reading the third one and then the second one. I don't know if that's some sort of like translation issue where we have it marked as the second book, but actually it should be the third, or if the third book is supposed to be kind of like a prequel to the second one. I'm not sure, but I really enjoy the second book. Honestly, after I read Snowblind, that's all that I was in the mood for. I was like, there are 6 of these books. I just want to fly through them. I really like the main character, Arithor. I really like the town. Snowblind ended on like a couple cliffhangers, and I was like, what is gonna happen with some of those storylines? So then when I started Nightblind, I was a little bit confused because it starts a couple years later, and there are some things that are not really explained to you. After starting the third book, Blackout, those things are explained to you. So I don't know, man. This is strange to me. I'm confused about this. But Nightblind, really good. I gave that one 5 stars. Honestly, I could see this being a 5-star series for me. I'm not even joking. Like, a new mystery series, that's so exciting to me. I'm super invested in the main character's story, super invested in the town. It doesn't get boring because they introduce new characters in every book. There's so many other people in the town that you meet, and then there's new people that move to the town. There's some people that leave. So there's like a lot going on. So in this one, Arthur is working under a new inspector in charge of the police force. That guy ends up getting seriously injured on the job, and it's like in a really suspicious manner. People are wondering like, why would anyone want to like hurt a police officer? What's going on? And it's up to Arthur to figure out what's going on, who did it, why, and is someone targeting police officers. I really enjoyed this. I would highly recommend the Dark Iceland series. And as I said, I'm already reading the third one. I'm super excited to continue. And lastly, I read The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. This is technically the fourth book in the Poirot series. The third one is a short story collection, and I'm not too into short story collections, so I just skipped that one. But yes, I did read the first two, and then I've also read some random other ones in this series. And I will tell you, it absolutely does not matter what order you read them in. You don't need to know anything. The main guy, Poirot, he's a detective. He's kind of old. He's like really cocky, and that's it. That's all you need to know. To be honest, I have read so many Agatha Christie books that at this point, if one is not really grabbing my attention, it can be hard to get through because these are super old. Like this one was published in 1926. So yeah, sometimes they can be a little bit hard to get through. But I, to be honest, wouldn't really recommend this one. The one that I read before this, The Murder on the Links, way better. The problem with a lot of Poirot books, especially these early ones, like the first three, are similar in a way, in that it's like there's a big mansion, there's an estate somewhere in Europe, and something suspicious happens, or there's a dead body found, and Poirot is called in to investigate. And it can kind of feel formulaic sometimes, which is sad because it's like Agatha Christie is the queen of mystery. I don't want to disparage her name. But I'll be honest with you, like there are some Agatha Christies that blew my mind. This was not one of them. I ended up giving this one 2 stars because the ending was interesting, but it's also similar to the ending of another book of hers that I read that I liked way better. That one is called Endless Night if you want to check it out. So yeah, it was just not, it was not my favorite. I don't know that I would recommend this one. If you've never read Agatha Christie or if you've never read anything from the Poirot series, I would suggest Death on the Nile maybe first, or Murder on the Orient Express, the ABC Murders, that one's good. But yeah, wouldn't really recommend, 2 stars. I feel like that was kind of like a sad note to end this video on, but I don't know. I was kind of dragging my feet. That's the hard thing about reading books on your TBR, and then also specifically books that have been selected in a TBR video. Sometimes you're not in the mood, and I'm not a huge mood reader, but it definitely plays a role. Like, you want to be in the mood for the book that you're reading, and sometimes I just wasn't. I was not really in the mood to read Before We Are Innocent or the Agatha Christie. And hey, maybe that did shade my review a little bit, but I just didn't really like those ones that much, so that's fine. Because you know what? I got them off of my TBR. That's amazing. I'm making progress. I'm doing it, you guys. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that you were able to gain some insight on these books if you never read them. If you have read them, comment down below, tell me if you agree with my reviews, and tell me what you read in March. If you like this video, you can give it a like. If you like me, you can subscribe to my channel. You can hit that little bell icon to get notified every single time that I post. All of my social media links are in the description if you'd like to follow me on Instagram or Goodreads or whatever, all that's there. And I will see you next week. Bye!